Brawl Stars added 84 balance changes, 6 new hypercharges, and a brand new brawler all in the span of just a couple days. The meta has completely shifted, so today I'm going to share the best brawlers at every rarity so you guys know exactly what direction to go for unlocking your next brawler. Starting off with the rare brawlers, we are going to keep it short and simple. I don't think there's any brawlers here that are necessarily busted or in that top 5, top 10 overall brawler range, but there are several very good ones to add to your arsenal. For me, El Primo is going to be the new hotness here since he got a brand new hypercharge. I think it's pretty solid. I think he's fun. I think he's in an overall good state that's not broken, but just good enough to be viable. And I think a lot of you all are going to have success with him, especially with how new that hypercharge is if you do go for the unlock there. However, there are several brawlers that I would categorize as very solid here. I usually recommend players go for those hypercharge brawlers as well. So somebody like a Bull, a Colt, a Rosa, especially early on, that's important as you get into higher ranks on ladder, or if you play the brand new ranked mode, it's going to be a brawler at your disposal that you can get to a higher power level, so you're more competitive up there. So any of those definitely work for me. I think El Primo the most fun of those and also very viable, so that's where I would go, but completely up to you all if you want to go a different direction. Super Rare received some shakeups, and Jackie was the biggest victim of that, receiving a massive nerf to the damage her hypercharge does, and as a result, this category is down to Jesse and Dynamite for me. Dynamite got several nerfs to his hypercharge, but he still feels pretty good to me. I think he's strong, still hits like a truck. A lot of the things that we liked about Dynamite before the nerfs to his hypercharge, he still feels pretty similar at. I think he's still going to be a very good choice. However, I must warn you all that he does have a win rate of the 74th best brawler in the game, so most players aren't great into him. I also think the ladder meta in general, with so many Mortis, Edgar, tanks right now like Buzz, Doug, Rising, it does make things a little trickier for Dynamite, which is partially the reason why I think his win rate is so low. But just know, he is a really good brawler. He does reward really good gameplay, but if you want somebody that's a little bit easier to conquer, I would look elsewhere. As for Jessie, she did get some buffs to the multiplier and damage that her hypercharge does. I don't know if I'm convinced that she's a top 10 brawler in the game or anything, but she's clearly very solid. Earning her hypercharge doesn't feel too bad, and I think she does suit the ladder a little bit better than Dynamite in terms of matchup. She's a little bit easier to play, so if I had to choose between the two, for most people, Jessie is the way to go. I think she's going to fit more circumstances, but no shame in going Dynamite if you want to take him on. Obviously, he's an iconic brawler in the game, and for me, he is super fun. After the balance changes, Epic Tier is still full of some awesome options, and at the top of those for me is going to be Pearl. Pearl still feels great, and on paper, it does look like she received several balance changes, 3 of those being nerfs, but the biggest thing for me is that they did not touch her damage, which was the biggest draw to playing Pearl in the first place. In fact, along with the 3 nerfs that she got, she did actually receive an increase to her hypercharge damage, and her regular shot damage was not touched, which is a big deal for me, and I think it's still going to make her a very powerful brawler. I actually do feel like those nerfs were probably necessary because I do think she's that good. A top 10 brawler in the game, the professional scene has fully embraced her. She has several maps and modes where she can compete. She doesn't have a lot of hard counters, and I think just overall is a real threat, and the win rate she has in the game right now reflects that. Pearl's shot over time builds to be stronger. The gadget that she has is great for chip damage or visibility onto the enemy team, and overall, I just think she's one of the better brawlers in the game right now. As an alternative to Pearl, I'm going to throw Colette in the mix. This is a read into kind of the meta and the balance changes that we just had, and even though we're only a couple days into it, I think Colette's stock also goes up along with these other tanks. So we had Buzz get a hypercharge, we had El Primo get a hypercharge, we had BB get a hypercharge, we had Doug get some massive buffs to become a better brawler in the game. So along with those tanks going up, the tank counters are also going to get that, and Colette, one of the better ones in the game, and a super hard counter into those tanks. You're going to get a ton of value while playing Colette into those matchups, and especially if you want to play the new ranked mode coming out, this is a good one to have in your arsenal just to be a counter matchup into those brawlers. Additionally, if you're playing with buddies on the ladder or anything, it is nice to be equipped to kind of deal with this tankier meta, and I think Colette is a perfect fit for that. For option 3, I'm going to give a shout out to Bo. I think he is overall very solid right now. I think he is living in that top 10 to top 20 brawler range. He's just dependable. He's all reliable. The mines still trip people up, and I think there are a lot of different maps and modes that he can definitely work on. As a quick note too, because I'm sure a lot of you will have questions on him, Angelo is the newest brawler in the game. He also ranks in Epic. From talking with other content creators and pro players, he seems to be pretty solid, so if you want the newest brawler, go for it. I won't stop you, but at the same time, if I'm recommending the most winning or the best overall, I don't think I can quite say that yet for Angelo, but I don't think he's going to be a bust. The Mythic Rarity received some of the biggest shakeups, which is kind of awesome considering that there were similar names at the top, and now we have a complete reversal. The worst brawler in the game, Doug, is now the top dog in this category for me. There is a caveat to this though. He did get some major buffs which are here to stay, I think. I think overall he's going to be a fantastic option, but the healing he does might be a little extra buffed than intended. Currently, it matches the damage output that he does, and I believe it's supposed to be half. So for example, 2400 damage is what his baseline is, and 2400 healing is what what his baseline is. I think that healing might be intended to be 1200. If that does end up getting changed, I still think he's going to be very solid. He will not be a bust. I think he's going to be an excellent choice either way, but I do think this is probably going to be an all-time high for the Doug stock, so get in while you can. I love the character. I think he's really goofy. I love the way his head bobbles, so if you're a Doug fan, now is the time to buy in. But if things regress, if they mess with his healing capabilities, another name and a very popular one right now is going to be Buzz. I think Buzz feels very solid right now. I don't think his Hypercharge is game breaking. They actually did make a nerf to it before it released to make sure that didn't happen, which I think was a great job. But I think in terms of fun factor, it's really hard to top Buzz right now. I think he's going to be very solid, high play capability, and personally, I just love the feeling of being like Spider-Man grappling from wall to wall with his Hypercharge. In the right hands, Buzz is going to reward you with some huge firework kind of plays, and if fun is your priority, Buzz is certainly a way to go, while also being a very solid brawler with that Hypercharge right now. And a couple other competitive brawler shoutouts as well are going to be Charlie and Otis. They were a couple impacted by these balance changes. I think I give a slight edge to Charlie because she has a Hypercharge and is also a great way to counter other tanks, aggressive brawlers, and Hypercharge brawlers with the Cocoon. She also has a Hypercharge of her own. She has the spiders, which can help you on the map, but Otis's damage is definitely better. It is more noticeable. I think he is going to be more applicable in many more situations, but they both kind of have similar roles, so I would give an edge to Charlie in that case. But if you're looking for a new brawler to pick up, Otis is certainly worthwhile for the first time in a while. Finally, we are going to be tackling the legendary Rarity, and for me, Leon is the top choice here. Leon is unique, he's fun, and he is still very solid. I was a little surprised to see that he actually didn't get impacted by any of those 84 balance changes. I didn't necessarily expect a baseline stat change to him, but I wouldn't have been super surprised if his Hypercharge got tweaked a little bit, considering how good it is. When he is invisible, he is still able to attack enemies, which I think makes him so lethal. He fulfills that assassin role so well, and as somebody who's mastered him, I can attest to how good he is in the general ladder, how good he is in the higher ladder, and those, 950s to rank 30 kinds of ranged. I've played him just about anywhere. There's not too many maps and modes where he's not going to be a great choice at, so I think that for most players, and considering what his win rate has been for the average Joe out there, I think this is about as good of a choice as you can get in the game. Legendaries are important though. Obviously, they're really hard to come by, so I want to make sure I arm you all with as much knowledge as possible here, so I'm going to throw in a couple extra bonus options as well. Cordelius is the next one I'm going to talk about. He did receive a nerf while he's in the Shadow Realm to where he can no longer jump in the Shadow Realm, so he can't necessarily get as aggressive as he probably would want to be, but on top of that, he did get a Hypercharge, which slows down the enemies, so can't really complain too much. I still think Cordelius is right about as good as he was before. He isn't going to go anywhere. If you're playing the ranked game mode, you're going to want Cordelius in your arsenal as a very competitive tool. He's somebody that's arguably going to be in that ban phase, I think, and still going to be very powerful, so the fact that he was already a really good brawler and he got a big purple button is going to make him pretty scary. Finally, I'm going to give a shout out to Spike, who is an iconic brawler in the game and can be good in just about anybody's hands. He's not the highest skill cap brawler in the game by any means. He fits a lot of molds with his star powers, with his gadgets, with his gears. There's a lot of different ways to play him, a lot of different maps that work out. I don't think he's necessarily a top 10 brawler or anything at this point. They did tweak his Hypercharge a little bit too, which is something to keep in mind, but I certainly think he's still in the mix for being a strong brawler that can be very consistent. If you're looking for somebody to just pick up on any day of the week for ladder or just a good general lane for ranked, Spike's definitely a guy for you. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free, very quick, and a massive way to support me in the channel. Hope you guys enjoy the new meta, and we'll see you all in the next one.